Hey guys, it's Marissa, and this is the Shit List. So, today I want to talk about a book that has been haunting me since I read it in February for my intro to lit class. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Now, I know, this is like crazy classic, canonical, really highly praised literature, right? I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying we should stop reading it. I'm just saying that I really hate this book, and I know a lot of people who hate it too. So here we go. If you've had the shittiest English teacher ever in high school and or ever took a serious literature class, or you are a lit major and English major, you've probably read this book before. I'm gonna tell you, those of you who have not read this book, what it's about. And yeah, there are going to be some serious spoilers ahead, because, like I said, this is in the literary canon, and if you haven't read this, it was a movie like 4 years ago, came out, like, if you haven't read this, calm down, click out of this video, and come back to it later. So this is the story of Jane, the girl on the cover, who on every cover I've ever seen, for some reason, is braiding her hair. But when we first meet her, she is very young. She is an orphan. She's living with her aunt and her cousins. The aunt is the wife of her biological uncle who had loved her, but he has since passed away, and her aunt and cousins hate her. Like, they're just terrible people. The family just gets really sick and tired of her and sends her to a Christian school for wayward girls. She's there for a little bit, and then she ends up graduating and becoming the governess to the ward of Mr. Rochester. And she meets Mr. Rochester, and this torrid romance ensues in which he kind of works his way into her mind and then leaves for months on end. And when he finally comes back, she is in love with him, but he is engaged to this woman, Blanche. Some crazy shit happens. They're not engaged anymore. They become engaged, and you find out the wedding cannot go on. Rochester is already married to a woman called Bertha, who is Caribbean, crazy, and who he is locked in the attic for years. Just, I don't even know how many years, just years. So Jane is like, oh my god, leaves for a bit, some stuff happens, she finds out that she has this long-lost relative who gives her a lot of money when he dies, she becomes rich, goes back to Thornfield, and realizes that Thornfield's burned down. And one of the old ladies who works there, or worked there, was like, yo, Bertha, like, went a little crazier than usual, climbed up to the top of the roof, set the house on fire, and jumped off of it. So now she's dead. Rochester had tried to save her, he was burned in the process, and is now blinded. At the end of the story, because he can't even see the class between them, they end up becoming married, having a kid, and because every Victorian story has to have a happy ending, Rochester even gets a little bit of his sight back and is able to see his son. So the story actually sounds pretty interesting, and I'll give it that. It was very interesting to read. It kept me on my toes for a lot of it, but I hate it. Like, I hate it so much. Okay, so this book is very much a struggle of class. Class is one of the heaviest themes in this book. It is something that gets between Rochester and Jane, and it's one of the things that makes this love story the worst thing I've ever read. So Mr. Rochester is very misogynistic, and obviously this is Victorian era literature, the feminism wasn't a thing, but I think what irks me the most about this is how revered this love story is. People call it like the greatest love story of all time. Why? Let's just go through the checklist of why Mr. Rochester is the worst guy ever. He definitely uses his power over her in really bad ways. He is constantly telling her, well, you are my employee, I am your employer, just definitely trying to hammer that in while still, like, flirting with her. At one point, he tries to force himself into her life, and into her thoughts by telling her, you are my employee, I want to see your drawings and what they mean to you, I want you to tell me. Another point, when he's already a little bit more transfixed by her, he dresses up as a gypsy and disguises himself to her in order to get more information and garner more about her, which is super creepy, right? Not to mention, she saves his life at one point, and that's when they really fall in love. And after that, in the exchange that they have, he leaves for months. Months he's gone. It's like she goes to bed thinking about how much she loves him, and the next morning she wakes up and he's gone. When he finally comes back, he's engaged to this woman, Blanche. And the way he proposes to Jane is that he goes and he's talking to her about how great Blanche is. Isn't she great? Isn't she rich? Isn't she pretty? And Jane's like, yeah. And then he's like, marry me. Like, you literally just spent easily 2 pages talking about how much, how great Blanche is. She's so pretty. She's so rich. She's so not you. You are my governess. You are my employee. Class struggles. Marry me. What? And that keeps continuing. And throughout all of this, he has literally renamed her. He calls her Janet, which out of context is just oh, he's just calling her Janet. But in the context of the book, names are such an important thing that him renaming her it's like he's stripping her of who she really is and trying to make her a different person. And when we finally get to the wedding and we finally find out that, hey, he's locked his wife in a closet in the attic for years. That's not even the crazy part about all this, that he's locked a crazy woman in the attic. And I get it that mental illness was way different back then, but no one's even hey, crazy woman in the attic, he's married. Instead of being Jane, I'm so sorry, he's Jane, I'm kind of sorry, I feel a little bit guilty about this, girl's crazy, here's my sob story about why all of this stuff happened to me. How about we just run off to France together? So the love story in this bothers me so much, and the people who, when I was in a class that learned about this book and we read it, the class was split in half. And my side of the room was I don't know why anyone likes Rochester. And their side of the room was but Rochester is just this sweet guy. And he locked the crazy girl in the attic, but she was crazy. So, what? Obviously, I am very swayed. This discussion of this is very swayed, but I will say one thing, and that is that Jane's character is a real, I feel, a real character of early feminism. I guess you could probably call her that. We didn't discuss her in that context in my class, but she stands up for what she believes in. She is very strong-willed. She don't need no man, and she makes that pretty clear in the book. That is one of the reasons I do like this book a little bit. I don't absolutely hate this book. I kept it, and I'm going to try to reread it at a point in which I'm not as angry at it. The love story for me, I know a lot of people read this for the love story, and Victorian literature is so heavy in it. The love story for me was nothing. It was just... So I hope those of you who are watching this feel the same way as me, and I'm not just yelling because I'm an idiot. If you have a book you absolutely hated, I would love to hear about it and why you hated it. I will be posting another video soon, but until then, see you next time.